Before the arrival of the Europeans, the land we now know as Nigeria was a tapestry of diverse kingdoms, empires, and communities. These groups boasted unique cultures, languages, and traditions. In the north, powerful Islamic empires like the Sokoto Caliphate held sway. They traded across the Sahara and had complex systems of governance. Further south, the Yoruba kingdoms, with their artistic prowess and urban centers like Ife and Oyo, flourished. Along the Niger River, the Igbo people thrived in their communal villages. Their entrepreneurial spirit and artistic talents were evident. The Niger Delta, rich in palm oil and other resources, saw the rise of trading city-states. These diverse groups interacted through trade, diplomacy, and sometimes conflict. This complex web of relationships shaped the region for centuries. This vibrant mosaic of cultures and peoples would be profoundly altered by the arrival of European powers, particularly the British. The early encounters between the British and the indigenous peoples of Nigeria were often marked by misunderstanding, suspicion, and resistance. The British, emboldened by their superior weaponry and driven by imperial ambitions, sought to establish control over trade and resources. In the south, the British faced resistance from groups like the Benin Empire, known for its bronze casting and military prowess. The Arachukwu Kingdom, with its powerful Aro Confederacy, also fiercely resisted British encroachment. In the north, the Sokoto Caliphate, under the leadership of Usman Dan Fodio, had emerged as a dominant force in the early 19th century. They initially viewed the British as potential allies against their rivals. However, as British intentions became clearer, resistance grew, culminating in conflicts like the Kano Sokoto expedition in 1903. Despite facing resistance, the British, through a combination of diplomacy, treaties, often signed under duress, and military force, gradually expanded their control. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, where European powers carved up Africa among themselves, formalized British claims over the Niger territories. This marked the beginning of formal colonial rule in Nigeria. The British implemented a system of indirect rule, particularly in the north, where they governed through existing traditional rulers. These rulers were co-opted into the colonial administration, becoming agents of the British Crown. In the south, where traditional structures were more decentralized, the British established a system of direct rule, imposing their own chiefs and administrators. This divide-and-rule strategy, while expedient for the British, exacerbated existing tensions between different ethnic groups. One of the most significant impacts of British colonialism was the introduction of a westernized education system. While limited in scope and often designed to train a lower cadre of clerks and administrators, it also exposed a new generation of Nigerians to Western ideas of democracy, nationalism, and self-determination. The seeds of dissent were sown. Economically, Nigeria was integrated into the British Empire as a source of raw materials and a market for manufactured goods. This exploitation of resources for the benefit of the colonial power hindered the development of local industries and reinforced Nigeria's dependency. The construction of railways and other infrastructure, while presented as signs of progress, primarily served the purpose of facilitating the extraction of resources and connecting key production centers to ports for export. The British administration in Nigeria was a complex machinery, designed to maintain control and extract resources. At the apex stood the Governor-General, wielding vast executive and legislative powers. He ruled from Lagos, the bustling coastal city. Beneath him, a hierarchy of British officials administered the territory. Residents and district officers enforced colonial policies. Their word was law, holding immense power. A colonial police force and army maintained order. Locally recruited but British commanded, they were symbols of authority. Courts dispensed justice, favouring colonizers. This system maintained British control at a heavy price. Traditional power structures were eroded, Nigerian voices were stifled, their needs ignored. The British saw Nigeria as a vast reservoir of resources ripe for exploitation. Agricultural products like palm oil, groundnuts, cocoa and rubber were in high demand in Europe, fueling the Industrial Revolution. The colonial administration encouraged cash crop production, often at the expense of traditional subsistence farming. This shift to cash crops made farmers dependent on volatile world markets and left them vulnerable to price fluctuations. Mineral resources, particularly tin and columbite, were also discovered and exploited. Foreign companies, granted concessions by the colonial government, established mines and extraction facilities, often displacing local communities and causing environmental degradation. The infrastructure developed during this period, such as railways and roads, primarily served the purpose of transporting these resources to ports for export. The needs of the local population were secondary, resulting in uneven development and growing resentment towards the colonial power. This economic exploitation created a system where Nigerians toiled to enrich the British Empire, while their own land remained underdeveloped and impoverished. One of the most enduring legacies of British colonialism in Nigeria was the creation of artificial borders that brought together diverse ethnic and linguistic groups under one administrative entity. The 1914 amalgamation of the Northern and Southern Protectorates, though presented as a measure to improve administrative efficiency, further exacerbated existing divisions. The North, with its predominantly Muslim population and a history of centralized emirates, differed significantly from the South, where Christianity had made inroads and traditional systems of governance were more decentralized. The British, often unwittingly, played on these differences, fostering a sense of separateness and competition for resources and power. This policy of divide and rule had lasting consequences, sowing the seeds of ethnic and religious tensions that continue to plague Nigeria today. The arbitrary nature of the borders also created problems for groups whose traditional territories and allegiances were divided by these lines, leading to conflicts and disputes that continue to this day. Amidst the oppressive realities of colonial rule, a glimmer of hope emerged in the form of Western education. Though initially limited in scope and designed to train a lower cadre of clerks and interpreters for the colonial administration, it opened a window to new ideas and possibilities. Missionaries played a key role in establishing schools, often with the aim of spreading Christianity. However, the curriculum, which included subjects like English, history, and mathematics, exposed a new generation of Nigerians to Western concepts of democracy, nationalism, and self-determination. This exposure, coupled with the realization of the disparities between the lives of the colonizers and the colonized, ignited a spark of awareness and a yearning for self-rule. A new elite began to emerge, educated in Western institutions, some even traveling abroad for higher education. These individuals, exposed to the intellectual currents of the time, would become instrumental in challenging colonial rule and articulating a vision for an independent Nigeria. They formed the backbone of a nascent nationalist movement, utilizing newspapers, pamphlets, and public gatherings to spread their message of freedom and self-determination. Resistance to British rule was not a novel concept. From the very moment the Union Jack was raised, whispers of dissent echoed throughout the land. Early forms of resistance were often localized and spontaneous, led by traditional rulers and chiefs seeking to protect their authority and the interests of their people. Religious leaders, recognizing the threat posed by Christianity to their traditional beliefs and ways of life, also mobilized their followers in opposition to colonial rule. Market women, a powerful force in Nigerian society, staged protests against unfair trading practices and discriminatory policies. These acts of defiance, though often met with brute force, demonstrated the resilience of the Nigerian spirit and laid the groundwork for a more organized struggle for freedom. As the 20th century progressed, these disparate voices of discontent began to coalesce into a more unified nationalist movement. The returning educated elite, armed with new ideas and a burning desire for self-determination, played a pivotal role in this transformation. They formed political organizations, published newspapers, and mobilized the masses, demanding an end to colonial rule and the establishment of a free and independent Nigeria. In the heart of Lagos, a new battleground emerged, not on a field of combat, but within the pages of newspapers and pamphlets. The printing press, once a tool of colonial administration, became a weapon in the hands of the burgeoning nationalist movement. Newspapers like the founded by John Payne Jackson boldly challenged colonial policies, exposing injustices and demanding greater representation for Nigerians. Herbert Macaulay, a surveyor by profession and a firebrand nationalist, used his newspaper, to rally the people against colonial oppression. These publications became platforms for debate, discussion, and dissemination of nationalist ideas. They reached a wider audience, transcending the limitations of public gatherings and spreading the message of self-determination to every corner of the country. The power of the written word was undeniable. It ignited a sense of shared identity and purpose among Nigerians from diverse backgrounds. The colonial authorities, recognizing the threat posed by these publications, attempted to silence them through censorship and intimidation. But the more they tried to suppress the nationalist press, the more resolute it became, its voice growing louder with each attempt to stifle it. As the flames of nationalism spread, a need for organized action became evident. The early 20th century witnessed the emergence of numerous nationalist organizations, each with its own approach, but united by the common goal of ending colonial rule. One of the earliest and most influential was the Nigerian National Democratic Party, founded in 1923 by Herbert Macaulay. The NNDP advocated for greater autonomy within the colonial framework, seeking increased representation for Nigerians in government and challenging discriminatory policies. In the 1930s, a new generation of nationalists, many of whom had been educated abroad, emerged on the scene. They formed organizations like the Nigerian Youth Movement, which adopted a more radical stance, demanding complete independence from British rule. These organizations, though often differing in their strategies and ideologies, played a crucial role in mobilizing the masses and channeling their aspirations for freedom. They organized rallies, petitions, and boycotts, challenging the legitimacy of colonial rule and demanding a say in their own destiny. The struggle for Nigeria's independence was no longer a whisper, but a chorus of voices, growing stronger and more unified with each passing day. The nationalist movement, though united in its ultimate goal, was not a monolithic entity. Within its ranks existed a spectrum of ideologies, each offering a different vision for an independent Nigeria. Some, like Nnamdi Azikiwe, a charismatic journalist and politician, advocated for a united Nigeria, a nation where ethnic and religious differences would be subsumed under a common national identity. Others, like Obafemi Awolowo, a lawyer and political leader from the Western region, believed in a federal system that would grant greater autonomy to the different regions, allowing them to develop at their own pace while remaining part of a larger Nigerian federation. These ideological differences, at times, led to tensions and rivalries within the nationalist movement. However, they also reflected the complex realities of a nation as diverse as Nigeria. The debate over the best path to independence, whether through a gradual process of constitutional reforms or a more radical break from colonial rule, was not merely an academic exercise. It was a struggle for the soul of a nation, a defining moment that would shape the destiny of Nigeria for generations to come. The struggle for Nigeria's independence was not confined to the halls of power or the pages of newspapers. It was a movement that resonated deeply with ordinary Nigerians, cutting across ethnic, religious, and social divides. Women, long relegated to the margins of society, played a crucial role in this struggle. They formed their own organizations, like the Abeokuta Women's Union, led by the indomitable Funmilayo Ransom Kuti, and challenged discriminatory policies, demanded greater economic opportunities, and actively participated in protests and demonstrations. Their voices, often ignored or dismissed, added a powerful moral dimension to the nationalist movement. The youth too were at the forefront of this struggle. Inspired by the ideals of self-determination and fueled by a desire for a better future, They formed youth wings within nationalist organizations, organized rallies and distributed pamphlets, injecting a sense of urgency and dynamism into the movement. The energy and idealism of the youth, combined with the wisdom and experience of the older generation, created a formidable force that the colonial authorities could no longer ignore. The struggle for Nigeria's independence was not an isolated event. It unfolded against the backdrop of a larger Pan-African movement sweeping across the continent. The independence of India and Pakistan in 1947, followed by Ghana's independence in 1957, had a profound impact on nationalist aspirations in Nigeria. These events demonstrated that colonial rule was not invincible, and that freedom, though hard-won, was attainable. Nigerian nationalists drew inspiration from the struggles and successes of their counterparts in other African countries. The formation of the Organization of African Unity in 1963, with the aim of promoting unity and solidarity among African states, further strengthened the bonds of Pan-Africanism. The Second World War also played a significant role in accelerating the pace of decolonization. Nigerian soldiers who had fought alongside British troops returned home with a heightened sense of awareness and a determination to fight for their own freedom. The war had also weakened the European powers, both economically and politically, making it increasingly difficult for them to maintain their overseas empires. The winds of change were blowing across the continent, and Nigeria, poised on the cusp of history, was ready to claim its rightful place among the community of nations. Architects of freedom, portraits of visionary leaders. The struggle for Nigeria's independence was a symphony of voices, a tapestry woven from the aspirations and sacrifices of countless individuals. Among these, a trio of visionary leaders emerged, each leaving an indelible mark on the nation's journey to freedom. Obafemi Awolowo, the pragmatic Lion of the West, championed regional autonomy, believing that a federal system would best serve Nigeria's diverse population. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the charismatic Zik of Africa, envisioned a united Nigeria where ethnic and religious differences would fade into the background. Ahmadu Bello, the revered Sardauna of Sokoto, played a pivotal role in navigating the complexities of decolonization, ensuring the North's voice was heard. Obafemi Awolowo, born in the Yoruba heartland, emerged as a powerful voice for regional autonomy. Awolowo's political philosophy was rooted in his belief that Nigeria's diverse groups could best thrive within a federal system. Awolowo's Action Group, formed in 1951, quickly gained a loyal following in the West. He advocated for greater control over resources, education, and economic development within the region. His legacy as a champion of federalism and a visionary leader continues to shape Nigerian politics to this day. Nnamdi Azikiwe, affectionately known as Zik, captivated audiences across Nigeria. Born in eastern Nigeria, Azikiwe's early experiences of discrimination ignited his passion for social justice and equality. Azikiwe's National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, or NCNC, advocated for a united Nigeria, transcending ethnic and religious boundaries. His message of unity resonated particularly strongly in the diverse urban centers of Lagos and Ibadan. Azikiwe's unwavering belief in dialogue and compromise earned him the respect of many, even those who disagreed with his political views. Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto, was a towering figure in northern Nigerian politics. Born into a prominent family in Sokoto, Bello inherited a legacy of leadership and Islamic scholarship. Bello's leadership style was characterized by a deep commitment to his people and a pragmatic approach to politics. He recognized the North's economic and educational disadvantages compared to the South and advocated for policies that would address these disparities. Bello's legacy as a unifying figure in the North and a staunch advocate for its interests remains undisputed. While Awolowo, Azikiwe and Bello are often celebrated, it is essential to acknowledge the countless others who fought tirelessly for independence. These unsung heroes and heroines came from all walks of life, their contributions as diverse as their backgrounds. Market women, the backbone of the Nigerian economy, used their collective power to boycott British goods and organized protests. Teachers, journalists and writers played a crucial role in shaping public opinion, exposing the injustices of colonial rule. Students and labor union leaders organized rallies and strikes, intertwining the struggle for economic justice with the fight for political independence. The story of Nigeria's independence is ultimately a testament to the collective spirit of its people. From the bustling streets of Lagos to the rural villages of the north, Nigerians from all walks of life came together to demand their rightful place in the world. They endured hardships, faced down oppression, and never wavered in their pursuit of self-determination. This spirit of resilience, unity, and determination continues to shape Nigeria today. The journey to independence was a defining moment in Nigerian history, but it was only the beginning. The winds of change swept across the globe as the world watched European empires crumble after the Second World War. The old order was fading, replaced by a rising tide of nationalism and self-determination. The war had weakened the colonial powers, their economies ravaged, and their moral authority in question. The rise of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers created a new geopolitical landscape, one less tolerant of colonial exploitation. Nigeria, with its vast resources and burgeoning nationalist movement, became a focal point for this global struggle. Nigerian nationalists, recognizing the shifting global tides, seized every opportunity to make their voices heard on the international stage. They traveled to London, to the United Nations headquarters in New York, and to conferences across the world, articulating their aspirations for freedom and self-governance. Nigerian leaders, armed with sharp minds and the moral weight of their cause, challenged the very foundations of colonialism. Their efforts found a receptive audience among newly independent nations, particularly in Asia, who understood their struggle. Nigeria's struggle was no longer an internal affair. It was a global issue, attracting attention and support from every corner of the world. With growing international pressure and increasing unrest at home, the British government found itself on the back foot. The nationalist movement had matured, transitioning from protests and boycotts to active participation in the political process. Constitutional conferences were held, first in London and later in Nigeria, where Nigerian representatives engaged in heated debates with British officials. The demand was clear: self-governance, not as a privilege granted, but as a right earned. Each step, though hard fought, brought the dream of independence closer to reality. The path to independence was not without its hurdles. Internal divisions, particularly along regional and ethnic lines, threatened to derail the process. The North, wary of Southern domination, favoured a gradual approach to independence, while the South pushed for a swift transfer of power. Through a series of tense negotiations, compromises were reached. A federal system with a strong central government but significant autonomy granted to the regions was agreed upon. As the date of independence approached, a palpable sense of anticipation gripped the nation. In Lagos, the chosen capital, preparations for the grand celebration were in full swing. Streets were adorned with banners and flags, their colors green and white, symbolizing the nation's verdant landscape and its people's unity. On that historic day, October 1st, 1960, the world watched as the Union Jack was lowered for the last time, and the green and white flag of an independent Nigeria was raised. The crowd erupted, their cheers echoing through the streets of Lagos a testament to the indomitable spirit of a people who had finally claimed their rightful place on the world stage. October 1st, 1960, dawned bright and hopeful in Lagos. The air vibrated with the sound of drums, the joyous melodies of countless voices united in song and the steady rhythm of marching feet. A sea of faces converged on Tafawa Balewa Square, their eyes fixed on the flagpole where destiny awaited. The Union Jack made its slow descent, while the green and white flag of a nascent Nigeria ascended, bathed in the golden light of the rising sun. A collective cheer erupted from the crowd, a sound that reverberated across the nation and beyond. Nigeria, the most populous nation in Africa, had finally broken free from the shackles of colonialism, poised to chart its own course on the world stage. The euphoria of independence, while intoxicating, could not mask the daunting challenges that lay ahead. Nigeria, a nation cobbled together from diverse ethnicities and regions, now faced the task of forging a unified national identity. One of the most pressing issues was the fragile balance of power between the central government and the regions. Economically, Nigeria inherited a system heavily reliant on the export of raw materials, a legacy of its colonial past. The task was immense, requiring visionary leadership, pragmatic policies, and the unwavering support of the people. The early years of independence revealed the fragility of the nation's unity. Old rivalries resurfaced. Fueled by political ambitions and unequal power distribution, the political landscape transformed into fierce competition between dominant parties. The seeds of discontent were sown, casting a shadow over the nation's hopes. The Nigerian army, born during colonial rule, observed growing political turbulence. Rampant corruption, disregard for the rule of law, and ethnic violence fueled military disillusionment. The military believed they were better equipped to govern, imposing order where politicians failed. The stage was set for a confrontation between democracy and military rule. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Tafawa Balewa Square, where just hours earlier a nation had celebrated its hard-won freedom. The echoes of joyous cheers, of drums and dancing lingered in the air, a poignant reminder of the hopes and aspirations that had fueled the struggle for independence. Nigeria, now a sovereign nation, stood at a crossroads, its future unwritten, its destiny in the hands of its people. The journey had been arduous, marked by moments of both triumph and despair. The legacy of colonialism, with its divisive policies and exploitative practices, cast a long shadow, a constant reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. Yet, the very act of breaking free, of reclaiming agency over their own destiny, had ignited a spark of hope in the hearts of millions. Nigeria's independence was not merely a transfer of power from colonial masters to a new elite. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of a people determined to chart their own course. The significance of October 1st, 1960 transcended Nigeria's borders. It resonated across the African continent and beyond, inspiring other colonized nations to rise up and demand their rightful place in the world. Nigeria, the most populous black nation on earth, had shattered the myth of European supremacy, demonstrating that freedom, though hard-won, was attainable. The date became etched in the annals of history, a symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome even the most formidable obstacles. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Tafawa Balewa Square, where just hours earlier a nation had celebrated its hard-won freedom. The echoes of joyous cheers, of drums and dancing lingered in the air, a poignant reminder of the hopes and aspirations that had fueled the struggle for independence. Nigeria, now a sovereign nation, stood at a crossroads, its future unwritten, its destiny in the hands of its people. The journey had been arduous, marked by moments of both triumph and despair. The legacy of colonialism, with its divisive policies and exploitative practices, cast a long shadow, a constant reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. Yet, the very act of breaking free, of reclaiming agency over their own destiny, had ignited a spark of hope in the hearts of millions. Nigeria's independence was not merely a transfer of power from colonial masters to a new elite. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of a people determined to chart their own course. The significance of October 1st, 1960 transcended Nigeria's borders. It resonated across the African continent and beyond, inspiring other colonized nations to rise up and demand their rightful place in the world. Nigeria, the most populous black nation on earth, had shattered the myth of European supremacy, demonstrating that freedom, though hard-won, was attainable. The date became etched in the annals of history, a symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome even the most formidable obstacles. The decades after independence were marked by progress and setbacks, unity and division. The fledgling democracy faced coups, corruption, and ethnic tensions. Yet the spirit of Nigeria endured. Artists, writers, and musicians inspired hope. A new generation demands accountability and good governance. The story of Nigeria, like an intricate tapestry, is woven from threads of diverse hues and textures. Vibrant strands of cultural richness, artistic brilliance, and entrepreneurial spirit intertwine with darker shades of conflict, corruption, and unfulfilled promises. It is a story still being written, a symphony yet to reach its crescendo, a journey marked by both remarkable progress and enduring challenges. Since that momentous day in 1960, Nigeria has navigated a tumultuous path. Military coups, a devastating civil war, and prolonged periods of authoritarian rule tested the very fabric of the nation. Yet through it all, the indomitable spirit of the Nigerian people, their resilience and unwavering belief in a brighter future shone through. Democracy, though fragile at times, has taken root, offering hope for a more inclusive and accountable governance. The economy, once heavily reliant on oil exports, is slowly diversifying, with burgeoning sectors like technology, agriculture, and creative industries showcasing the nation's vast potential. Access to education, healthcare, and infrastructure, while still lagging in many regions, has improved significantly, empowering a new generation with the tools and knowledge to shape their own destiny. Nigeria, with its vast population and abundant resources, stands as a giant in Africa. Its successes resonate across the continent, while its failures cast a long shadow. The nation has played a pivotal role in regional peacekeeping efforts, mediating conflicts and promoting stability in neighboring countries. Its cultural influence through music, film, and literature has transcended borders, captivating audiences worldwide. Yet Nigeria's true potential remains untapped. Challenges like corruption, insecurity, and ethnic divisions limit its global influence. Nigeria grapples with its identity, torn between regional power and global aspirations. The future demands unity, innovation, and good governance. Visionary leadership and social justice are key. The world watches with a sense of shared destiny. Nigeria's story reflects global challenges and opportunities. Its successes offer hope. Its struggles serve as cautionary tales, and its enduring spirit reminds us of the ongoing journey for freedom, justice, and prosperity.